Welcome back again to Ask Dan Anything. And today we've got a question that comes up a lot in BROJO. Now in BROJO, a lot of the guys come to us from a background in pickup artistry. So for those of you unfamiliar with that, being a pickup artist is about learning strategies and techniques to make women like you, essentially. And it ranges from highly deceptive and bizarre, like hypnotherapy type tactics, and every word being scripted and planned and having every response scripted and planned, all the way through to the other end of the spectrum, which is much more direct and honest and spontaneous and more about being an attractive man than about controlling other people. But what it all has in common is strategy. It's all about strategy. So, what happens a lot in BROJO is we get guys coming to us who don't want to use strategy anymore, or they're finding that using strategy actually defeats the purpose. It prevents a connection from happening. And that was my experience of pickup as well, is I could manipulate women into liking me, but it got to a point where I felt still isolated and disconnected from them because they loved my performance and not me for my dark, messy self. So I started exploring being dark and messy instead and found a whole new way to interact. But I got a question here from Henry, and I think his question, his story will represent the struggle of the recovering pickup artist. And we can use this to talk a little bit about how to make that transition from manipulative and strategic through to spontaneously honest and unattached to outcomes. So here's what he says. He said, I had 3 girls that gave me their Facebook contacts. 1 girl gave me her number. He didn't really expect that. He was happy. And he says, at the same time, I was scared with the old feeling that I have to play a text game and try to score all of them. So long story short, one of them, he says, the hottest girl, messaged me back and forth on Facebook for a few times the next day. But I sent her one last message and she didn't respond. And it wasn't an insult or a backhanded compliment. It wasn't flirty. He thinks it was neutral. He says, but I can't lie that in the back of my head I was hoping that I could score her. And my head kept assessing all the tactics. Perhaps it's a habit from pickup. He goes on to say, now the thing is, I did feel like there's something's lost. Something I could have earned. Like an opportunity to meet her again, or at least the emotional roller coaster of flirting text game. This is like a hate and love thing. For a longer period of time. I'm confused now because I don't feel settled at the moment, and still my head keeps being delusional that I just lost something that would make me feel happy eternally, forever and ever. What are your thoughts? So Henry's dilemma here really represents a lot of what I went through both during and transitioning out of the whole pickup concept. Was that there's this constant tactic and gameplay in every interaction I had with a woman. Now it's constantly, and most people do this whether they're involved with pickup or not. You can see any first date is just full of this tactics and strategies, and Louis C.K. always he talks about dating where the guy's just a mess, and the first day he's just throwing things out there. He doesn't even know who he is. He's just trying to hope something will stick. He's just an absolute mess walking around, and pickup's just a more concentrated, structured, trained version of that. And so it can be a nightmare. You can't even enjoy having a flirty text conversation with a girl. You can't even enjoy a date, really, unless your outcomes are being achieved, because you're so focused on winning, on scoring, as Henry puts it. And yet you don't even really know why you're focused on scoring. I mean, sex is enjoyable. Of course it is. But what you'll find during pickup is that sex is just a physical, pleasurable sensation. It's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. It only becomes a big deal when you're not getting any. But with pickup, because you're so disconnected from the person, the sex is merely physical. As opposed to, say, sex with someone that you're passionately into, that you're deeply vulnerable with. That's a higher level of connection. So recovering from pickup is difficult, and Henry, I know Henry well, and he and I have a shared experience with the recovery from pickup being difficult, from trying to deprogram the programming that you originally used to fix some other old programming. You're like a computer with too many apps, you just can't turn them off. You don't even know which ones are running. And you're conditioned to, here's the analogy I want to use. You're conditioned to see the world, the social world, as a computer game. That's what pickup does. It conditions you to see the world as a series of codes that you need to deliver in order to achieve an outcome. A woman becomes just a range of levels. There's the level of initiating the conversation with her, they call it approaching. And once you conquer that level, then there's a level of gaining her attraction, and then there's a level of building comfort with her, and then there's a level of escalating sexual attraction, and on and on. There's these different levels, and there's codes and cheat codes to move through these levels, and that's what pickup is. Even the most direct and honest version of pickup is still very level-based, still very strategic, linear. Really, it's like you're playing a computer game with the sole intention to defeat the final boss at the end. Now, this is a bizarre way, really, to approach socializing, which is about emotional connection. You're approaching it like a psychopath with this rational, linear, strategic, goal-setting way when it's an artistic pursuit. Connection is emotional, spontaneous, unique. There's a computer terminology word I can't remember, but the thing designs itself. Those computer games that design themselves while you play them. It's a painting that's never been painted before. It's every single interaction you have with a human is a totally unique experience. There aren't really levels. There's just interactions and experiences. With Henry's language, the way he words his question speaks to the pickup ideology. He talks about scoring. He talks about a girl being the hottest. He talks about there's a lot of numbers going on here. How many girls he's had, how much texting he's had. A lot of quantity measurements there. The language suggests, Henry, that you're not seeing the humanity in these women. They're merely conquests and numbers to you. They're just levels to be completed. Who they are as people, that complex, dark, emotional self. I don't see any interest in that with your question. Nothing in your question has talked about really how you felt about each girl personally. It's only how you felt about how well it's going with her, which isn't her. And that's where I think the key is here. Because of pickup, possibly, and everything else you've been influenced by, like me, women have become numbers to you. They've become levels to be achieved rather than complex, unique, spontaneous beings that can be explored and that are different every time, and there are no levels, and there's no good or bad, and there's no conquest. There's just interaction. You can't lose a person, you can only lose numbers, or potential numbers. A person is never yours to have. It's like a sunset. You don't own a sunset, but you can observe it. You can be with it, you can experience it. Weather. You can't control weather, but you can go out in it. You can be there when it rains, and you can feel the cold and the wind. You can be there in the hot and feel the burn. You can just feel it and experience weather. Women are like weather, much more so than men in my experience. You never know. There are some women who, like they're in the Caribbean, they've got generally a warm state of being. And there's others who are like Greenland, who are generally icy. But they all range variably. The weather's... That's what I find incredibly interesting about women. They're so unpredictable, so sensitive to small variables that every woman's just an experience in and of herself. Just to be with her as she tries to be herself is amazing to me. But it didn't used to be. It used to be just like, can I get this girl? And do I want to? That's all I care about. Can I notch this one up or not? How well am I doing? Rather than who is she? And when you lose sight of who they are, then you can lose them. Because they're just numbers. You can lose numbers. But when you can't lose the weather. You don't lose rain or lose sunshine. You just observe it. It's not yours to have. And a woman's not yours to have either. Even if she gives you sex, she still doesn't belong to you. She never will. So you probably are missing out on experiences, but what you think you're missing out on is numbers. And you think you're missing out because you're not doing it right, that you're saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. But it's because you're trying to do it right that you're missing out. I know this is a message I had to receive over and over and over and over again before it hit home. I need to let go of winning, of achieving, getting, scoring, and just explore. To go back to the computer game analogy, I'm not a big computer game guy, but there is one that I love, and that's Grand Theft Auto. All the versions of it, Grand Theft Auto is my favorite. Why? Because you can either do missions, which is a very pick-up kind of way of interacting. You do the missions, you achieve the levels, you move up. Or you can say, fuck the missions, and just drive around running over hookers. Now, I'm not saying that you should do that. But what I'm saying is you're approaching socializing in the mission way, and you need to just start shifting over to the explore way, just for fun. What's this woman going to be like? What's going to happen with her? Let's see, there is no good or bad to it, just what's this one going to be like? Rather than trying to get her number, forget... You know what really helped me? Was I put myself on notice, and I refused phone numbers. I didn't allow myself for a period of time, as a kind of reset, purge you might say, for a period of time I wasn't allowed to get a woman. I made that choice. It wasn't, I just couldn't do it. I like to get out of the pickup mindset. I said for the next 3 months, I can't remember how long I set the time, next 3 months, no matter how well it's going with a woman, I'm not allowed to see her again. Just so I can just be with her and not with the fantasy of her in my head, the scoring and the points. I took a break from women, but still interacted with them. I was playing the computer game, but without playing the missions. I was just going around exploring the map. And I really recommend, as a practical step, this is what you do, is let go of scoring women. Don't even let them be in your life. Even if it's a great connection. Just practice letting go of them, so that every time you're interacting with a girl, the only chance you can have to enjoy that experience is to be there with her as a unique being. Because you're not going to get anything in the future. You've made sure of it. That's the only thing I can think of to really break this for you. To understand, every time you're worried about the numbers, you're worried about their response, you're worried about how well it's going, you've lost the humanity of this. You don't see them as people anymore. And you can get back to that by just going, what is this one like? Who is she, really? What's going on for her? How does she feel? What are her beliefs? How does she see me? How's that different to what other people see? And so on. Henry, I hope that helps, man. I feel you on this one. It took me so long because, women were just such a demonic thing for me for such a large part of my life. In the early part of my life, they scared me. And then the pickup phase of my life, I tried to control them. And now I treat them like the weather. I just let them be. And I just experience it. I just let them contribute to the rich meaningfulness of life by bringing their wildness into it. And I love them for it now. I'm not scared of them anymore. Strategy will keep you scared of them. There'll always be a game you can lose. Stop playing the game. Just stop it completely. If anybody else has any questions around this, send them through dan@brojo.co.nz. And my favorite resource to recommend if you're trying to recover from pickup is my man John Cooper. I think his website is johncooper.net. Or you can look up social artistry. So artistry, but spelled like heart. Social artistry. His specialty is helping guys recover from pickup and learn to autonomously and playfully socialize once more, just like children do. So I hope that helps, and I'll see you guys all next time.